Hello, everybody. Haven't checked in here in a while. A lot of shit's been going on in the world. Excuse my language. Um, so probably, let's see, probably one of my last videos was like a survival type, communications, radios, all that stuff. Um, I'm going to be getting some new radios here soon. I ordered some on Amazon. Uh, let me pull them up here. Um, pretty cool radios. They're ham radios, but they have a really wide band frequency transmit capability and stuff. So if the crap hits the fan, then I'll be able to transmit on pretty much any frequency, any major frequency that's out there. Um, well, VHF and UHF at least. I have like as you saw in previous videos, I have radios that can transmit on shortwave and uh, many different other bands, but um, the one I bought, I was trying to check my email so I could pull it up, but it's not working, so I'll just ignore that for now. But so yeah, it's a Chinese company. I'm trying not to go into I'm not trying to patronize the Chinese companies and stuff, and especially on radios. But hey, it was cheap and. It's not fully digital. It's not encrypted or anything sensitive, so the radios may not be the best quality, but it's gonna work well enough for my needs with me and my friends here in my area. But other than that, we had our governor today decided he was going to do a mask mandate. So that's what we're going to be going through here in Kentucky. Kentucky, according to the statistics, was one of the worst off states early in the pandemic. We had like higher infection rates, death rates, or whatever. Even though they were low, the percentages were higher than other places. But throughout the pandemic, I'm not giving credit to my governor. I mean, people here were just naturally careful. I mean, Kentucky gets a bad rap. A lot of people think it's uneducated people, but there's people here in Kentucky from all over the place, all over the world, especially in the town I live in. So, caution was taken, and we kept our curve low. Um, I mean, I honestly know a few people who work in the medical field who were laid off because there wasn't enough hours. They weren't getting the COVID response that other states were getting, like New York and maybe California, a couple other places. But so they just didn't get the hours. They had to virtually lay people off or furlough or cut back on hours. Um, many medical workers who were essential before all this, but obviously with everything going on, they were declared not as much so. So, but yeah, I sort of I get out. I've been getting out more probably since the last updates that I've posted. Um, you just can't stay in forever, so I've been getting out more. I've been around people. Um, I do my best to sort of subconsciously social distance myself, but in reality, I'm probably not doing a whole lot more than I did even before this. I've always sort of been a person where when I'm in public, I'm not close to people unless they're like people I know personally or um, who I feel are people I can be around without having to worry about disease spread. I guess it's sort of hard to explain, but just people who are cautious, I guess, is people that I tend to be around. So, um, and then any other person, just mass populace. I mean, I it's gotten crazy, this whole thing. I mean, I was all gung ho about the survival and the aspects of this whole situation we're in, and in the potential disease spread early on, I was throwing out huge numbers even higher than what they're talking about now. They're talking about like 2 to 3 million potential cases. I mean, early on in this whole scenario, I was tossing out like 2 to 3 million deaths. But we're not anywhere near that, obviously. And even the numbers that are out now are misreported. Um, I posted on my Facebook and in other places that, um, when it comes to the disease, when it comes to COVID, uh, it's misreported. If there's been people who got into car accidents who got thrown out of their windshield in their car and they died of complications from head trauma, from uh, you know, massive physical trauma, but they were marked as a COVID positive just because they tested positive for it, supposedly, allegedly. Um, there were people in New York that were pulled out of the street with a gunshot wound to the head, and they were marked as a COVID positive. Just like some of the Elon Musk interviews, if you've watched the Rogans, you could be hit by a bus and have COVID, and you get marked as COVID death. You could your arm could wash up on a beach after your body was eaten by a shark. Your arm will test positive for COVID, and they'll mark you as a COVID death. And in the video, he said, to Rogan, um, he's like, "That's what's happening. There's no question about it." And Rogan asked, like, "Where are you getting this information? Where are you hearing this stuff?" And he's like, "I'm listening to public health officials. That's what they say is happening. Full stop. That's what's happening." So, and that's just a very narrow sort of cross section. Now, Kentucky, at least in my area, I mean, I'm part of what's called the Lake Cumberland Health District. It's around the lake here in Kentucky. I think they've been better than a lot of other big cities and larger statewide organizations. I honestly believe here in my town they're reporting only positive COVID tests. Unlike other places where if somebody tests positive for COVID and then you were exposed to them, they mark you as a positive COVID person. Uh, what county was that? Collin County, Collin, Collin County, Texas. There was a video I watched the other day where somebody would test positive for COVID, and then they would do the contact tracing and all that stuff. And on average, anywhere from 15 to 18 other people were pulled into the potential COVID positive uh, arena just because they had contact. They never had a test. None. There was no test done on those other people, but they were rolled into the numbers for positive COVID tests. I mean, I'm tossing out all kinds of keywords here. I'm going to upload this to YouTube. They'll probably take it down or shadow ban me or say I'm fake news or whatever. I don't care. I mean, I'm not anybody big. I'm not like a big, so it'll probably stay on there for a while. Maybe if I'm lucky, somebody will pick it up and it'll go wider. But, I've just been trying to listen to a lot of health professionals. There's the Senator, Scott Jensen. He's like a 40-year doctor and he's a senator. And he is basically speaking out about the misreporting of deaths across the country. And they're trying to block them. Somebody complained on social media to one of his posts, and now the medical board, I don't know if it's like the American Medical Association or whoever takes care of like doctors, uh, complaints against doctors or whatever, complained against him. He doesn't even have the right to know who they are. They could just be some face, Facebook PhD out there who disagreed with him, and now they're looking to silence him. And he's like, if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. I mean, this guy's a 40-year doctor and a senator in the state of Minnesota. He was like voted, I think, Doctor of the Year in Minnesota for the year 2016. I mean, this guy, his credentials speak for themselves. And then you have another fella. Um, I've been following a bit lately. Well, I can't look at my phone because I'm recording on my phone, but Shiva, he's like an Indian guy, the like creator of email and PhD from MIT, top end guy. I mean, he's speaking out against a lot of this stuff, just saying that it's overblown. It's not as bad as they say it is. Masks aren't going to necessarily protect you any more than just basic hand washing, uh, basic social distancing. Don't walk up to somebody, get in their face, and talk to them or what. Yeah, I mean, just common sense stuff. Um, because even in a normal flu pandemic or a normal thing, a normal sickness, you don't do that anyway. If a flu's going around, I'm not going to be walking up to people. I mean, it's just they're blowing it out of proportions. They're misreporting the numbers, most likely, honestly, for political control. This whole thing has been over politicized. It's an election year. Um, it's really sad. Yeah, that's all I got to say. That people are treating this in that manner. Um, yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of people around the world die, but I think it was the United States. I looked up the statistics for the number of people that die on a regular average day without a pandemic or anything. It's like approximately, I believe it was approximately 9,000 people a day die. It could be anything: lung cancer, heart disease, drowning, shooting, whatever cause. About 9,000 people a day, and during the spike, the supposed spikes in this disease, you know, it's been in the hundreds or maybe even the thousands per day. But how many of those people had underlying conditions? I told you earlier, people got shot in the head. Well, you can't see that. Shot in the head, and they got pulled out of an alley in New York or whatever and marked as COVID. They were in a car accident, massive trauma, marked as COVID. It, the Scott Jensen senator guy was just talking about, that's what he's trying to get out is the misreporting. People who had underlying conditions. It's death by COVID, death with COVID. You can die with COVID, and it's not caused by COVID, but it was caused by that underlying condition. Death of COVID. Yeah, maybe you were healthy, but maybe you had a shitty immune system and you just happened to catch it from somebody and you got the full blown, you got a large virus load and you succumb to it, which I believe honestly are very, very few people who actually got a large enough viral load to succumb directly of COVID. A lot of people are saying the numbers are probably overblown by 25, 30%. I honestly, in my honest opinion, I believe it's probably more like 60 to 70% higher. They're saying about 125,000 deaths. I would probably put it down somewhere in 30, 40,000. And most of those were the nursing homes, Cuomo, and the other states whose governors sent COVID positive people into nursing homes. Look it up. I mean, it's not like hard to find. COVID positive people were sent to nursing homes, and those people in the nursing home got the disease because they were vulnerable, so on and so forth. I'm not going to say any more on that. You can Google it for yourself or whatever. But it's frustrating. I mean, I still have my food supplies. I'm still, like I said early in this video, I bought a new new ham radio that I'm going to program all the frequencies into. And excuse me, just in case the shit does hit the fan, and I need to have communications between me and my fellow compatriots here in my area. Um, but you know, I just don't know what more to say. I just think this whole thing's been just over politicized, overblown to the point where people are getting brainwashed into believing whatever the government tells them. I mean, any other time, I mean, people on both the right and the left don't like to listen to the government, but now they're just falling in head first, heads over heels, listen to the government, what does it matter? Wear a mask. I mean, but just like gun control or anything else, it's a slippery slope. What are you going to allow them to mandate next? What if they say, guns can cause COVID? Or people are just going to go along with anything the government says. Too many people are conditioned to believe every word the government says. Um, and then the sort of the irony is Trump's in power, yet if his people or or the CDC or whatever comes out and says stuff, people believe it. They wouldn't believe him at any other time. They rally against Trump. I mean, Trump derangement syndrome. I guess maybe this COVID thing's a cure for Trump derangement syndrome. But I Trump, I know he's on the fence about this whole thing. I mean, the CDC saying one thing, he's going against it. I mean, you don't know who to believe. And there's so much conflicting information on social media. It's hard to get a real view. But honestly, the as I've probably said in past videos, the main people I listen to when it comes to social media and information on this topic is, well, one is Michael Yon. Um, he's probably not a good one, when it comes to supporting my view in this video. He's probably a little more hardcore when it comes to the effects of this pandemic and how bad it is. Um, he's probably more gung ho still, but he still supports freedom and liberty and the rights and so on and so forth. So that's why I mentioned him. Tim Pool, he's not as well known, but John Stossel did a relatively recent video with him, how he's gone from sort of the left, supporting and covering Occupy Wall Street, with Vice News, and then he sort of switched and changed his ways, and now he's an independent journalist. Um, so Tim Pool's a really good guy. So that's one that I watch. Of course, like a lot of the common ones, Steven Crowder. He's Canadian, Everybody likes the Canadians. I mean, but he's vocal. He's stepping out, and Steven Crowder and Tim Pool hooked up. And even though Tim Pool wasn't a big gun guy, being sort of a liberal libertarian type, um, Steven Crowder bought him like I think it was a SIG AR-15 style rifle, and had it delivered to a local FFL. So Tim is now armed. Tim Pool is now armed. So don't mess with Tim. But Steven Crowder, gosh, there's so many others. It's hard to keep track of. Terrence Williams, David J. Baker. I can't remember them all, but there's so many out there. Scott Jensen, the being the doctor, the Shiva guy. I can't remember as well. I'm not. Don't call me a race. I can't pronounce his last name. It's like Ayyard something. I don't know, but he's running for Senate. He's that PhD from MIT I was talking about. So he's really good, um, and there's just so many others, so many others. Just open freaking eyes, people. I didn't mention people like Candace Owens and the Hodge twins. I mean, I like them too, but so many people on the left have already dismissed them, even though they're black. They went from left to right. They were disenfranchised leftists who went to the right, and they were canceled. They weren't canceled in the public eye. I mean, they're still out there, telling their truth. but they were canceled by the left in the leftist circles. People don't want to listen to them anymore. You know, if you're a conservative black person, you don't mean anything to the quote unquote Black Lives Matters organization. Now, Black Lives Matters, I mean, I don't want to carry this video on too long, but there's the BLM, I call it the lowercase BLM. That's the people who have a legitimate argument for Black Lives Matters, especially people who are against the black on black crime in Chicago. They're against, like, you know, crazy police brutality. Um, and they're not fighting law enforcement. They're just looking for change, to make it better. But then you have the Black Lives Matter organization, which is funded by global powers. You know, George Soros and, you know, I don't know, Clinton Foundation, whoever. But those are two different things. I mean, I support lowercase BLM. I don't support the uppercase BLM because they're not the same thing. They really aren't. Um, you know, I haven't heard anybody else refer to uppercase BLM versus lowercase BLM, uh, but you know, all the deaths in Chicago every weekend, every week, every day. You know, people getting shot and getting killed, and nobody says a damn thing about the innocent people getting killed. It was like the police chief of Milwaukee, white guy, good guy, but he says there's not one of you that can name the last three victims of a homicide here in Milwaukee, but not it wasn't Milwaukee, but 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 all of you can name somebody who was killed by a cop. You don't basically he was saying that people don't care about the innocent victims. They only care about the high profile ones where somebody was killed by a cop. And it's massive hypocrisy at the highest level. So, just my opinion. I'll probably be canceled. This video will probably be banned. People will probably hate me. Um, but you know, my story's long. I'll tell my own story at some point, but I don't know where this is going to go. So, but yeah. So I hope everybody has a good one. Wear your mask. Don't wear your mask. I don't care. So, but if anybody who knows me sees me on this video, just you know, next time you see me, come up and give me a hug. I'll give you a hug. I don't care. So, everybody have a good night. Take it easy. Peace out.